Well, hello, my friends. Thank you for joining us today on another episode of Non-Toxic Environments. My name is Andy Pace, and this week, another wonderful show to bring to you. We have Michelle Ifverson. Michelle is the founder and environmental wellness design director of a company called Design Well Studios. And Michelle has really tons of experience to bring to us today, being an interior designer who specializes in biophilic design. She also does all types of indoor air quality testing, mold and mycotoxin testing, EMF testing. She is an environmental wellness consultant. Honestly, it was just a wonderful conversation with somebody with tons of experience in the industry, and it's always fun to bring an episode like this to you because it's in the 30 years plus of my involvement in construction and design. Rarely have I come across somebody who has truly as much experience as I do and more experience than I do in all avenues of design and wellness. And so I'm really excited to bring to you the interview with Michelle. And just a reminder, folks, that the episodes that you're listening to now actually come to you live on the Non-Toxic Environment Circle community if you're a member of our community. And these episodes are not only audio, but video, and allow you as Circle community members to actually interact with the guests, ask questions, be a part of the show. And the only way to get to that is to join our community. It is free to join. We want you to interact or not, but at least be there to learn and observe and ask questions if you need to. So please follow the link in the show notes that I'll be providing to join our community for free and share as much or as little about your journey, about your health journey, to help others. People really love to learn from others going through the same things all throughout the world. And people have found incredible solutions to problems they're having, both in a home front and a physical health standpoint. So please join the Circle community. All right, folks, here is Michelle Ifverson. If you can please give us all just a introduction of who you are and what you do and how you got into this.
Well, we were speaking briefly before we went on live that I didn't tell you the whole story. So you were asking me about how I got started in this. Well, I got exposed to mold as a young person and didn't know about it. And so, with allergies and sensitivities and nothing too crazy, but I was definitely keyed into, organic lifestyle and, definitely didn't want to be around chemicals and things like that. So when I was in college, I wanted to become a doctor. So doing pre-med, anatomy, and all kinds of stuff for classes before, the big classes, the time I went in to go to the cadaver labs.
Mm-hmm.
I walked in and Mr. Cadaver was so very pickled with formaldehyde that I could not be in that room at all. I had tears in my eyes, and I went to my professor. I said, I can't do this. I can't. He's like, well, you have to do this if you want to become a doctor. It's like, it's kind of an important lab to do. And I said, okay, screw it. I'm going to art school in Paris. So went to become a designer. And anyways, down the road, I got another exposure and really became so important for me to live in an environment without toxins and chemicals. And just over the years of having more awareness, while I was raising my kids, wanting to curate healthy building materials and furnishings and finishes and things like that, I started a company called Actually Green This Life back in 2006, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And we went on to with a naturopathic doctor, friend of mine, and other partners, and we sold products and furnishings and consultations, and then I got into building biology
Ah,
and
yeah.
studied that, and then that's rabbit hole just got deeper and deeper and deeper.
Hmm.
And I got lots of certifications in and studied and building biology, like I said, and biophilic design. That's something that came to me. I've been doing for years,
Hmm.
and I didn't know it was actually a term.
Right, right.
Talk more about that.
Yeah, yeah. Boy, biophilic design, it's something that, for those that are listening that don't understand it, it's essentially it's mimicking nature.
That's
It
biomimicry.
biomimicry.
Yes,
Oh,
that's
I'm sorry, I didn't hear. Okay,
yeah,
biophilic. Okay.
design. Yeah, yeah. So that's the bringing the elements of nature into built environments.
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
Yeah. So I was on the
yeah.
board of directors, yeah, of the International Building Biology Institute for several years. And
Nice.
so building biologists, if I'm working on a project anywhere in the country and we need, boots on the ground, somebody actually to go out and do the inspections, I'm always looking for a building biologist first.
Right.
Somebody who has gone through the training to use the equipment properly, and then I can, speak that same language with them. And
Right.
so fantastic. That's great to hear that you went through that. It's a
Yeah, a long time ago. A long time ago. And obviously things have changed. The meters
mhm,
have changed, the tests have changed. The labs are still there, but some are better than others, obviously.
mhm,
And with like enthalpy, Ceramac,
yep,
I've been working with them for years, and we
yeah,
created kits that people can buy themselves. But it's there is a lot of things you can do from afar. We've been doing that. We send professional test kits out
right,
and consult. But boots on the ground, if there is a project that somebody needs to, really see what the lay of the land is and act as that liaison for somebody who especially is super sensitive,
mhm,
it gives the client a peace of mind to have that connection with somebody who has experience in really nerdy geeky things that your normal inspector or builder or engineer wouldn't know about.
mhm. Yeah, we were talking briefly beforehand, and the way I got into this business was providing a water-based epoxy floor coating for a project in Milwaukee, and this
Mhm.
is back in the early '90s, and we all thought water-based was safe because, what's the alternative? Solvent-based.
Right.
Well, as the primer coating was curing, it literally sucked the oxygen out of the room during the curing process, and we had workers rush to the hospital because of inhalation complications.
Right. Oh man.
So, well, while a lot of folks get into this business because, like you said, you had your own health issues, and it just made you want to learn more. And then you get to a point where you've learned so much. Now I need to
Share.
educate people, share it. Exactly. Yep. And so mine was from a standpoint of I am poisoning my workers, I'm poisoning my customers.
Andy.
Yeah.
Oh,
And we didn't know, the industry didn't realize and never talked about this, that, in order to be called a water-based coating, all that means is 50% of the liquid component is water.
right. There's
Oh,
just no in this industry, and it's
yeah.
just I'm hoping that things are going to be changing. Do you know about Arlene Blum from the Green Science?
Yes. Mhm.
You should have her on as a guest. She's
Yeah.
amazing. And I followed her for years, and I still follow her. And she's the one that got fire retardants out of our beds and
Mhm.
furniture and kids' clothing.
Exactly.
Did
Yeah,
more harm than good.
and it takes, it's interesting. It takes individuals like that, and then it also takes class action lawsuits, of course, because that's really how chemicals finally get out of our processes, is because, and it's unfortunate, but so many people end up getting sick that
Right,
there ends up being class action lawsuits, and then our government finally has to step in and do something. The alternative, or the way it's normally done is, company ABC comes up with a new chemical, they submit it to the EPA, and if the EPA doesn't actually get to it in the next 90 to 120 days to test it, they rubber stamp it approved. And then it's approved without any testing, which
yeah.
is about what 97% of our
Uh,
current chemical load is right now. Out of 92,000 chemicals that have been approved by the EPA, 97% of them have never been tested.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I know.
and so we become the guinea pigs.
Which is awful. And then you and I end up doing damage control left and right.
Yes.
That's what I call it. I'm like, so that's why I got into design stuff, because it's like I want to create more of a positive, flow with the work that I do, but you kind of have to do the other stuff first. You have to make sure that the environment is a safe space, and then you put the good stuff in with the lighting and the acoustics and the plant life and the colors and things like that too. But I do damage control every single day, and
Mm-hmm.
it's remarkable that property managers for apartments, they don't change filters for like 9 years. It's just like I have these clients and like they don't know. We
No.
all been there when we were younger. I mean, I have two kids, they're 20 and 22. They both live in their own apartments, and so I help them from afar, and when I go visit, like helping them learn about their environment and learn where to place their bed and learn how to, obviously they have air purifiers and water purifiers and things like that. But, having more of a building awareness, even though you're renting, you have to maintain your environment.
Mm-hmm.
And, nowadays there are tools like air monitors and meters that are more affordable now that on the professional grade, that and those people like us that we can consult with them and to help them dial in their environment. So it's really not like you buy a house and all is good.
Mm-hmm.
When you buy a house or you move into a place, you have to really get to know it. Get to know it and look for things and know where to look and change your filters every quarter. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we were talking about case studies. If you wanted to talk about a doozy, there was a new build, and a client called me. They had moved there for like a couple of months, and they had two little kids, one baby and one like toddler, and they couldn't shake being sick for like 3 or 4 months. This is a common one, right?
Yep.
And so they had me over. It was a spec home that the builder did, and gorgeous. But you walk in there and you're just like, boom, formaldehyde,
Mm.
boom, toxins of every
Mm.
and the ventilation, there was none. They didn't even
Yeah.
have any windows that were across anything. They were open. And anyways, you can read it on my blog. It's quite interesting. In fact, the HVAC person that I hired after the builder hired another HVAC person to put in an HRV, which is a heat recovery ventilation system that brings in fresh air and exhaust stale air, helps your house breathe. Put it in backwards, and he added in ozone.
Okay. Well,
So
yeah.
then
See, that's a problem. That's obviously a big problem, and so it's. I go back and forth with ozone because I'm a big believer that ozone, if used properly in the proper um, concentration, is one of the best forms of purification. The problem is HVAC contractors typically don't do that. They put in a system that just creates ozone and it doesn't know when to stop,
right,
and it doesn't know when to shut off.
right.
I mean, ozone, if ozone is used properly, it should actually create less ozone than what's natural outdoors.
But I found, sorry to cut you off, that in this particular case, they had such a high level of formaldehyde
Well,
that,
that's the problem.
and when they introduced the ozone, what
Yeah.
my understanding is, it grabs onto those molecules
Yeah.
and it makes it bigger, and they just hang out. And unless you clean every surface,
Yeah.
it's going to be an even bigger situation than you had before.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the caveat here is the fact that you never want to deal with formaldehyde with ozone because it just makes formaldehyde worse.
Right.
Ozone will help with everything else that could be problematic in the air, a lot of other things, but if it's formaldehyde specifically, yeah, that's a big no-no. And that's
Right.
because, again, most HVAC contractors aren't, they're not building scientists. They don't understand
Right.
what happens with those interactions.
Right.
And so
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, it's just, and that's where your involvement is so important because, you know, they have to learn these things.
Right. And that's my whole goal is that, when you've got your subs from plumbers to electricians to builders, that I want them to speak the similar language and they
Yeah.
understand each other. So for my own residence, there was a power line or electrical line that went in down and underneath an inside wall, and it went into underneath the bedroom. And so I'm like, we just bought the house. I'm like, no good. That needs to be in an outside wall away and not underneath bedrooms and in conduit. So we did that. They put it underground with a Faraday cage, all nerdy. They thought I was crazy. What is doing it? They still to this day. It was like a school parent family, and I'm just like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
I'm like, I feel like this work that we've been doing for so long, it's now just kind of catching up, or maybe people are just kind of hearing about it and understanding and appreciating the value
Sure.
of it.
Right.
But we keep
Yeah.
failing.
Well, I think back in the early '90s when I first started this, um, most of these materials, most of these methods and the things you've been talking about were like talked about quietly behind closed doors with certain types of people. It wasn't mainstream at all. I
No.
mean, and Jay from AFM could understand this. His products were sold through doctors and allergists and clinics and places that sold for people that only had extreme allergies and sensitivities. Nothing was mainstreamed at the time. And so if you talked to, I remember in 1996, I was president of the largest architectural association in Wisconsin. All my friends were professional commercial architects. And I'd say, guys, I've got this paint that doesn't off gas and it seals up the off gassing from what's underneath. And they all looked at me and like, oh, that's cool. Well, if we ever have a customer that needs that kind of stuff, I guess we know where to go.
You're like, why would you use that normally? Like, that's just like, we're just painting our house now. And we can talk about the paint and all that good stuff. Uh,
Nice.
but it's crazy that it's a mindset. It's really
Mhm.
about the mindset. And I'm having a talk with a builder on I think Thursday or Friday, Thursday, that they're like, we want to switch gears. We want to use products that are healthy because they realize that they are going to be applying them too. I mean, how
Mhm.
many landscape contractors they have lymphoma and things that can be avoided if you used healthy building products. And it's, I don't know. I mean, I feel obviously we're in agreements on all these issues, but it's nice to be part of a community that appreciates the work we do
Yeah.
and really understands and values. And you know a lot of buildings, every building is unique, obviously, and unless it's a complete tract home, but it's still, they are
Mhm.
still unique because
Right.
depending on the where they're located and all kinds of other things and the lighting and things like that too. But um, to really help people create that building awareness is so important. I mean, especially since we're spending so much more time now since
Mhm.
after COVID. I've had clients, and I'm sure you did too, call us up. They're like, I usually work away from home and now I'm spending more time at home, and they're like looking at things a little bit more closely, a little bit more deeply. And they're like, what's that smell? Well, I'm not feeling good. I don't usually spend this much time in my home. And now people are spending more time in their home. Like, I've worked from home for many years because I raised my kids and I was able to have a company that I was able to go on site during their school and then come home and have my own hours and do these things. But now I consult with people all over the country to help them with their environments. But it's a to me, I've always sort of dialed it in. But we all have issues. You have to pay attention always. Like,
Mhm.
it's really nice, but to make sure that you talk to people, when I say you, I mean everybody, in this industry is to never judge them, to
Hmm.
never like we all have busy lives. We all have a million things that we're doing. But it's just to kind of shine a light on certain things like mattresses, where you spend most of your time, like where are you sitting? You know, I remember my husband put a, a speaker or an amp for our speaker system next to the couch, and I didn't know it was there.
Hmm.
So those can produce pretty high magnetic fields. And so my legs started kind of not twitching, but like a restless leg syndrome. So I'm like, what is going on? And then I found it and I moved it literally 10 feet
Yeah.
and I was fine.
Wow.
So it's just, I think it's nice. And like I said, these days there are tools that people can have themselves with the help of a building biologist or an environmental consultant to be able to, use them properly to be able to do that. But yeah.
So, was your first love interior design?
So my first love is design.
Yeah.
Period. Like I went
Yeah.
to art school in Europe,
Mm,
and I studied graphic design and photography. I actually
mm,
studied photography with one of the best photographers in the world.
mm,
I'm in Paris. His name was Jean Finn. He was a fashion photographer,
mm.
professor. But was a friend of my professors, and that was super fun. But my mom was a landscape architect. In fact, she designed this or painted this behind me.
Beautiful.
Passed away in January, and she has this huge collection that I helped her curate together, which was really fun. But then my stepfather was a builder, so I
Okay.
grew up in that environment and really had a fun time doing that. But I went on to study graphic design and also user experience design.
Mm,
So for well, they call it UX design. So it's when you're creating an environment or a for the web a
mhm,
product. There's a it's called a positive customer experience.
mhm,
So what is the process of a customer from the very beginning to the end? Where are all the touch points?
mhm.
And so I got really involved in that in San Francisco for many years. And I still do a bit of it with my own work because who doesn't want to have a positive experience no matter what
Right.
they do?
Right.
So, right? Yeah.
Well,
So,
it's interesting you say all this, how you're talking about this because if I didn't know that, I would kind of assume that's kind of the path you took just based upon your knowledge base. I can tell you that for years I would guest lecture at every architectural school and interior design school in the Midwest,
mm,
and they'd bring me in to talk about healthy design. And what I loved about talking to both architectural schools and then design schools is that I mean, I knew the architectural side really well, just from my past experience.
mhm.
But from the design side, I found that the students were far more engaged in this concept.
Finite.
Um,
Yeah.
yep. And understand that in a project, the designer is so much more involved in choosing materials
Right.
that the customer ends up using.
Right.
Architect can draw it out, but it's come to the designer now to actually envision it in color, in 3D, put it together, find the right products, and then I have to tell them now. Understand the next step though is that you become part of the liability stream.
Right.
If you are now specifying the use of materials that we know have chemical off-gassing issues or electromagnetic field issues, you need to start thinking about, as you get into your career, looking at healthier options.
Hmm.
And I mean, so it just makes sense because I mean, you're already somebody who is trying to do the best for the clients, but
Hmm.
then also you understand the health aspect because you've gone through it yourself,
Right.
and you've got family history of architecture and building, and
Yep.
that's very rare too.
Yep. The
I
whole
find that,
all come together. I mean, it
yeah.
really is fascinating if you kind of step out of your world for a minute and get a bird's eye view.
Mhm,
Look at, every job, every project, it all kind of weaves together. There's no
mhm,
like mm, accidents. I think it's really
Right.
nice or they're good accident, maybe they're accidents, but they you can take a part of what you do or whatever you do and apply it some way somehow to what you're
Mhm.
doing. And for me, I color. I went to design school, so I love color, like all the whole color thing, and lighting. I'm working with a fantastic, phenomenal lighting designer called George. His name is George Blosson, and he's got a company that's called Light Glass. It's
Mm.
for window spaces. It's phenomenal.
Wow.
It's really beautiful. But design for me is it's just like food for my soul.
Yeah.
I love beautiful things, and it really is. This. So back to biophilic design. Even though I was in graphic design and user experience design, I've always done environments. I've done design challenges. I've done uh, consulting and design for many, many years. And now I'm really getting into it over the last few years to really help on more of a wellness side of design,
Hmm.
uh, bridging that environments first, making sure they're healthy, and then adding in those elements. So lighting is super key. And this is called indirect biophilic design, with it's not an actual plant, but it evokes that sense of nature that does something to our brain that makes us feel more comfortable and more connected to the study. I don't know if you've seen the study about I think in the early 80s, Roger Ulrich.
Hmm.
He was I can't remember exactly what he was. I need to read that back again, but he was I believe either a psychologist or I think he was a psychologist. And he was doing a study where there was two in a hospital, two rooms, one without a view of nature of anything, just like a brick wall or whatever, and then one with a view of a park or some sort of a nature aspect. And they had the same exact I mean, obviously two bodies are different, but they had the same procedures, very similar things. And well, guess who healed faster?
Right.
The
Yeah.
one person with a view of nature.
Sure.
And so he went on to study that. And Bill Browning and Katie, she changed her last name, are part of Terrapin Bright Green, and they do amazing biophilic design consulting, and they write all about that. So there's like 14 or so different principles of biophilic design, and it's so fascinating. Like there's a building in the U of O, University of Oregon, here in Eugene, and it's the big business building. And you walk in, and it's got all solar panels like in the glass windows is perfectly put in there. And you walk in, and they have these sort of veneered, um, perforated panels underneath all of the steps and in the ceiling for acoustics. So
Hmm.
you walk in there, and you're having a conversation, and it's like the code of silence. You remember this? So it's just like this beautiful. You can have a conversation. It feels equal. It's not bouncing off of all these different surfaces, and they even have concrete on there too. So that's fascinating to be able to do things like that in buildings. Because
Yeah.
there's the noise part. If it's a building, if you go to a coffee shop, everybody's like,
Right. Right.
in a restaurant, it's disturbing.
It is. And so, I think of that, and I think of many years ago, the National Audubon Society built their headquarters, and when they did that, they incorporated not only does everybody who worked there have a view of the outside, but they
Right.
also have their own um, fresh air supply at their desk. So, yeah, it's like every cubicle
Novel
then.
idea.
I mean, so what
Amazing.
they showed, and so the really cool thing about that is they did studies based upon that building as well as other buildings of the same size, about the same usage, and they showed that those who worked in the building that everybody had a view of the outside and fresh air at their desk, um, actually had a higher production rate of what they did at work,
Right.
and a far less sick rate.
Right. Oh,
Be-
totally. Oh,
People wanted to be there. You know when you go into a building, it's hard to explain to people who don't have this sensation, but when
Right.
you walk into a building, you instantly know there's something wrong.
Oh,
It's
totally.
just a feeling you
Oh, yeah.
get.
Oh, well, like dirty electricity. So
Yes.
so dirty electricity is could be wiring errors. It could be the circuits are overloaded with dimmer switches or solar, all kinds of things. Just the system is just leaking out. It's like, oh, I tell people it's like a water leak. It's like a slow leak
Mhm.
because there's too much pressure. Anyways, I've walked into homes, beautiful homes, and they had a few kids in there, but it wasn't like the kid energy. It was
Right.
like the mom was nervous, people were going on, and when I would test, it would be like, I don't know, 1,200 volts per meter from the sensor meter, and I'm
Jeez.
oh, and 1 meter or one filter wouldn't do justice, or
No.
sometimes it doesn't change it at all. So that's where we have to, like, where is this coming from? And then let's put the whole home filter or
Right.
fix the wiring or something. But when you do fix it and you walk in, you're just like, oh yeah. And
Right.
it's in nature, this beautiful home. But like, even if a home is in a beautiful environment and
Mhm.
you've done all these biophilic, awesome, cool things,
Mhm.
if there's too much energy on the circuits, you walk and you're not going to feel relaxed.
No.
You're going to feel edgy.
That's
So
right.
that's the cool fine tuning part that I love
Yeah.
with people, that you're just like, you can fix. Although I'll tell you, I tell my clients that you can fix most things in the built environment, but I did have a client a few months ago call me up before they bought the house, and they had a toddler, and they're like, we want to test we want to test for EMFs. There's a cell tower close to our place. I'm like, okay, great. They didn't call me until after they bought the house. I
Oh.
there, it's literally in front of their house.
Mm.
And not only that, they were um, upgrading it
Mm.
to 5G
Of
in front
course.
of the house. And I
Of
asked
course.
them about it. I even point blank asked the people very nicely, "Are you guys upgrading to 5G?" "Oh, no, no, we're not doing that. But if we did, it'd be totally fine."
Of
I'm
course.
like, you're just
Yeah.
contradicting yourself.
Right. Right.
Like, what is it? I mean, I'm not going to call anybody, but it's just like, so we did some shielding. Unfortunately, when you buy a house, it's hard to sell it right away and
Mhm.
whatnot. So you can do some shielding, and but those are the things that are really tough. I do work with real estate agents. I've got and clients who are looking to buy a house too. I have a whole wellness real estate protocol, and what to look for before you buy or invest. What's a really
Mhm.
avoid, just so you don't freaking get yourself in a situation like that where you're
Right.
like, okay. Or real estate agents like, I don't really want to list a house that is like 10 feet from some high tension power lines or
Right.
some transformers, or yeah. So there's some, definitely some things you can. I've learned a lot. I
Mhm.
think it's important to also, you know when we have all this knowledge about the built environment and what could go wrong, to just take a deep breath and realize it's like eating, healthy all the time. I'm like,
Mhm.
we eat pretty healthy all the time, but sometimes you just want to go out and have tacos and a
Mhm.
margarita. It's okay to
Mhm.
have moderation. The mindset, it's really important to center ourselves and realize that, especially when we've been doing air monitoring,
Mhm.
that's been a
Right.
little addicting. I
Mm.
tell you, it's been really interesting. I can talk about that in a minute, but the mindset to not be overly worried, to not be in that state of panic. I found a lot of building biologists, no offense, but they live in a state of fear a lot, and
Mhm.
they put a lot of fear in their clients, and
Right.
I did not like that. I didn't like that part of the community that was, because a lot of the building biologists, we all have started with something. Um, that has affected our health. So it's really important to take sort of a sideline and to just get grounded and realize you can't fix everything all the time.
Right.
Have to be able to kind of move through life and not be in a heightened state to be able to, live your life and be happy. So,
Well, I can't tell you how many clients over the years have said, Boy, if I wish I would have known about you last week. We just did this or that in the house, and then they'd say, "Well, do I rip it out and replace it?"
Hmm.
No, no. I mean, don't cause yourself that stress and that financial burden unless there's an acute health issue going on.
Right,
There are other things to look at,
right.
and so in everybody's home, I don't care how healthy of a home somebody thinks that they have built for themselves.
Yeah.
There's always going to be something because there's trade-offs.
Sure, of course. But like spray foam insulation, I'm dealing with a client in New York, right? And they just a couple years ago, or actually just a year ago, put in the spray foam insulation. It was closed cell.
Hmm.
No, yeah, it was closed cell, and put it all in the roof of the attic. And and they sealed it. It's a complete sealed environment.
Okay.
So he's getting tons of headaches all
Yeah.
the time. So I'm like, carbon dioxide, your house is completely sealed. It's no fresh. He did just get an HRV or ERV,
Okay.
energy recovery ventilation or enthalpy.
Sure.
And now we're doing some testing to see with enthalpy what if it's still off gassing
Sure.
to see what's
And
going.
yeah, I mean, I've had to remediate some of those homes over the years, because the spray foam people, of course, will argue that, oh, well, once it's cured, it's fine. No, that's when off gassing starts, is
Yeah,
after of reaching a full cure. But
right.
the bigger issue is the fact that most often this product
It's
is
all
not applied properly on site. So you have bad mixes, you
yeah,
have too thick of an application, too fast of an application, whatever the case is.
not enough ventilation. Yep.
Right. And so, then you're going through the whole, ice blasting and all that to get it out. And it's an absolute nightmare. So we try to avoid spray foam when all
Mhm.
possible.
Yep.
So I want to talk about the colors, and we're kind of coming up on time. So,
No worries.
um,
Do it.
so you're talking about biophilic design, and we're having a discussion about how we just walk into a space and how you feel. And
Right.
so years and years ago, we did a project here in Milwaukee for a holistic healthcare clinic,
Hmm.
and everything inside of this clinic, materials we chose were uh, completely natural products. Wool carpet with no pesticides or chemical dyes, cork flooring, clay plaster walls. I mean, we really went to the nth degree inside of this commercial space. And after being open for about 2 months, the doctor reached out and said that my clients feel like just coming there, they're getting better
Yep.
because they feel good. And so we learned all about how natural materials and the vibrational quality of natural materials and
Right.
how it resonates with the human body versus plastics.
Yep.
And then we started looking into colors and how colors can affect. And so this is like the combination of sort of biophilic design, Vastu,
Hmm.
and traditional color therapy, in color psychology. And so you worked on your own color system. I would love to hear about that.
Yeah. Yeah. I see Jay's on here. Hey, Jay.
Hey,
Uh,
you know what?
you
I'm
bring
going to
him.
ask Jay to come on.
Do it.
So Jay, just so you know, I'm inviting you to the screen. So I hope you got camera working. So
And
if hopefully pops on, if not, you can at least talk about him.
so there he is. He's coming. Hi,
Jay, hey, how are you?
Jay.
Hello.
Hey, hey.
I've been listening. I've been listening
That's awesome.
eagerly, enjoying the conversation.
That's awesome. Thanks. Oh my
So
gosh.
Michelle, how did you end up working with AFM and putting this together? Because it's just fascinating.
Yeah, so I think we talked a little bit before we came on here live, but I was sourcing. I used to source a lot of stuff for a local place here in Portland that went away. They did the brick and mortar. They just went away, and so I'm like, oh man, well I need this. I need these products for my clients, for my projects, for my own home. And so I contacted Jay, and I said I'd love to be able to be a distributor, and so I did, and been selling ever since. But I don't even remember, how did we talk about you? I think
Well,
you asked me to do.
I remember because after I met you and understood what you were about and really kind of loved your energy, I thought, maybe Michelle would be interested in developing a small curated color palette for us.
Yep.
And when I said that to you, it was
I-
like, oh my God, yes.
Yeah. It was like the biggest, coolest like gift somebody could give me. I'm like, I just fell in love with the idea because I'm so in love with biophilic design. I love color. I mean, I know the benefits that does to you. It's paint, for crying out loud. I mean, paint is so easy to change a mood, increase your well-being for not a lot, under $100. You're like, I got a gallon of this great, and my room is transformed. It's amazing. So yeah, I mean, Jay put this together for me. It's a really nice little deck of all the different colors, and so I designed this line all inspired by nature. Mm-hmm. So these are photographs that I took. I'm a photographer, and so I would often go out. I go out in nature all the time, and I would photograph forests or coastal lines or actual trees, or macro pictures of mushrooms, or I'm that person. Yeah. So it's really fun. And the cool thing is I would go and photograph and then send them to my mom when she was alive, and then she would paint them. So a lot of my photographs became her paintings all over. So that was really a fun thing. But it was great to be able to come up with these colors and connect them to, like, this color here. I don't know if you can see it really well, but this is called fir. So fir is obviously a tree, and it's just very strong. I should mention too, my background in college was conceptual design, information art. So to get really geeky about like why you chose something and have a narrative about it, it's that this is what totally inspired me too, Jay, is to like come up with a visual, beautiful line of colors, but then have a story around them. So if you go to my website, you can go under design and design well colors. You can see like I've got a story about eucalyptus, about how my husband and I went on our motorcycle. We go around on the one and then Half Moon Bay, and then we go through this eucalyptus grove, and you're instantly hit with that amazing, awesome smell of eucalyptus. It's super healing. So if I could evoke that feeling and that experience into a color, and then bring that into people's environments and to create that, I feel like that's a recipe for well-being. So that's why I was pretty excited about it.
I also was resonating with the idea when we talked about your line, Michelle, was how it dovetailed with our Ayurveda essence. We were trying to find other probably more esoteric ideas about how to bring these things into your life. And so we looked at Ayurveda, and we saw that there was a way to bridge conventional color theory with some of the Eastern ideas. And then coming to you with biophilia, it was another way for us to take another street to educating people on all these other modalities that are really helpful in terms of your personal health and your happiness.
Right. Yeah. I love the connection of, like one of my good colors, I think people really are responding to, is called driftwood. It's just a really light, warm gray. Mm-hmm. But when you have that name, I know lots of paint companies have the colors, they do the similar things, but I take it a little bit further. I'm like, there's a reason why it's called that, and then to bring that into the environment. And then a lot of times when people order the paints, we have conversations about their environments and how we can help them create infuse more well-being into their environment. It's a way to have that conversation on a wellness level mixed in with design. So it's a really nice way to dovetail that.
Andy and I have been so, I think, blessed is the best way to say it, to be able to share all these stories that we have.
Yeah.
The AFM story and your story, Andy's story. These are things that people want to connect to.
Yeah.
We need more of this kind of story connection, and they recognize that this is as Andy's always asked, what's wrong with common sense?
Not too common.
That's not, common sense isn't too common.
Right. People get so distracted in life, right? They get so distracted.
That's it.
they're looking down on their phones and they're not. So what I'm really trying to do as a designer is to create more awareness in their environment and give them the tools to be able to dial up their wellness. You know, I mean, you can take all the supplements you want in the world, but if you have an environment that's not supportive in many ways, it's not going to do a whole hell of a lot of good. You're just going to, you know, take a lot longer to heal, or it's not going to do a great job at all. So,
Well, and I'll chime in there too, because yes, I 100% agree with that, and I'll add, the mind is a powerful thing, and we know that, especially with our clients, that, as we talked about before, it's very easy to fearmonger and to make somebody so worried that they feel like they have to do something. On the opposite side of that, color, especially color that has a story behind it, it's something that they can think about every time they walk into that room, and just the memory of that conversation they may have had,
well,
exactly. And so I point this out just about every episode about the, you know, that point of Vastu, Jay, that every corner of every room should bring you bliss.
Mm-hmm.
And so you think about that and go, how simple is it just to paint a wall or a couple of walls in a room to
yep.
bring you that feeling? It just makes so much sense,
Right.
and it's so inexpensive.
Yeah, I can spin my computer around hopefully a little bit. This color here, I'm still working on it.
Yeah.
This is spruce. It's a really nice, beautiful color from my color line. It's really nice, and it's just it's framing a window, and it's part of my office, and I look out into my backyard, and it's just kind of draws me into it rather than just having one color. It's an anchor. It's, you know, focal walls are really nice because they bring you, they're cozier, they're really beautiful. So yeah, and then I work with, you know, artwork too that you can be able to put on those walls to be able to, you know, enhance that even more. And furnishings, and, you know, I do a lot of I don't do feng shui, but I know a lot about it, about the different textures, the different elements. And so I'm a big I love, you know, incorporating wood in my designs too, because wood is super, super grounding. I just got a chance to work with a woman in Florida. Her name's Ashley Rose. And we did a virtual feng shui matsu. I always do that every place that I've ever owned. And sometimes I just need a refresher. My mom just passed away here at the home, and I'm like, I repainted her front room, and I actually came up with a custom color. I did that, and it's just really nice to be able to kind of clear the energy and fine tune things when certain things feel a little bit too heavy. You know, sometimes it's just about changing the furnishings, like, and then walk in. What do you first see? You know, there's a method to it. I mean, there is definitely. Over the years, I've been doing this kind of work for probably 20 plus years, and every place that I've gone at, you know, you can dial it in just a little bit more, and it makes a difference. I remember for the building biology, we were doing I think the healthy building and remodeling course certification in Austin, Texas. And Paula Baker Laporte, she did Breaker. She's like, how many places have you lived in? And I was the youngest one out of all of the people that were there. And I had lived in, I think, like 20 plus places over the years. And I had a story, and they're like, which one was your favorite? And I said, it had to be the one on the hill in Santa Barbara, that's where I grew up. And it was an acre, and it was my uncle's property. We lived on the back. It was this huge property. So we had with this house in the back. It was like a tree house, and we got to look over the whole view, but it had fruit trees of every single type, and there was just nature all around. So yeah, it's kind of fun. But even if you can't live in a place that has the beautiful view, or it is more urban, like, you can create your own sense of nature by doing like a little ledge in your window, doing paintings, having your own plants with the right lighting and taking care of the plants. There is, when you first wake up, what do you see?
Mm-hmm.
Those types of things. You can create those pockets of joy and increase your well-being and bring in that nature part into your environment that way.
Oh, it's fantastic.
There's some good hacks. So if anybody wants to know some really, easy hacks to do to bring in more wellness into your environment through design, hit me up. I'm love to help you.
So, Michelle, I'll certainly be linking this in the show notes and so forth, but what is the best way, anybody listening right now, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
You can email me, michelle@designwellstudios.com.
Okay. Yeah. And then I've been to your website, a lot of information on the website. Very well made, of course, but very informational. Folks, if you have any questions, please type them out now. Otherwise, I'll have Michelle's email and website linked in the show notes. Jay, thanks for joining us today. A little impromptu.
Oh, it's okay. It was just kind of a nice surprise.
I was hoping that you would.
Nice surprise. Thank you for letting me show up.
Yeah, you got it. Appreciate your input, Jay.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Michelle.
Thanks, Michelle.
I really can't tell you how much it's been such a pleasure to have you on the show, and to know that you're out there doing what you're doing. It's so needed in our industry. I mean, we need your type of direction on this, and so thank you for really committing your career to this. It's been really helpful.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, I work with people all over the world. Like if there's a project somewhere, I mean, I can be virtual, I can travel. My whole goal is to work with, build and design and clients and the whole team together to create supportive, healthy environments that really evoke or infuse well-being. I mean, there is a recipe for it. I will tell you this. I worked on the protocols and the recipe and the right way to do it. But it's also getting to know how people, the whole user experience thing, how people function in their space and where they spend their time when they have their cup of coffee. What do they look at? What's their viewpoint? Go to sleep. Like, what's their viewpoint? It's all about the views of nature versus inside versus out. So there really is. It's just a wall, but we really want to connect our inside and outside as much as possible.
Well, and that actually actually leads us to a question that Regina just posted. She wants to know if you work with home performance and to help cluttering mindsets.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Like it sounds like the process of again bringing nature inside is going to help with both of that.
Right. And I just have to say, it doesn't have to be this hippie, groovy, like naturey kind of thing. It can be very elegant and very minimal. And, I don't know if you're familiar with the wabi sabi. Is it called wabi?
Mm-hmm.
Wabi sabi.
Wabi, yeah. So it's just the minimalist nature, gorgeous. It's just, there's ways to create it where it can match people's style,
Mm-hmm.
And I work with my clients. Obviously I have my own style, but I'm the designer, but it's their home. I want them to be like, whenever I design something for someone, as graphic design or anything like that in the past, it's their project. I'm just the catalyst per se.
Mm-hmm.
So to bring my experience in there, because in the end of the day, it's their own environment. I don't live there. They live, I want them to be, really happy and fulfilled and supported in that environment. Yeah. And, I'm still going to be doing damage control. That's just what I do and helping people with their environments. But my goal is to really help people once we've curated their environment so it's a healthy space, is to take it to the next level, because the healing can progress when you bring in these design elements in.
Excellent. That's fantastic. Well, and on that note, I think we're going to have to be done with the program because we're in the middle of a hailstorm outside. I don't know if
wow. Awesome.
I don't know if you're hearing it through my microphone, but we're getting hammered pretty hard here. But It has been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Andy.
I hope you'll come back when we can talk about, there's so much more to talk about. So we'll definitely have you back on the show.
I'd love it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Michelle.
All right,
and
guys.
everybody, please make sure to go to our website, send her a note. I will have everything on the show notes. And we really appreciate you joining us here on Non-Toxic Environments. Again, if you want to see the show live, the way that you all who are joining us here see it, you have to be a member of the Non-Toxic Environment Circle community. And to do that, first of all, if you're a customer or a client of Green Design Center or myself as a consulting client, you'll probably see a link in one of the emails you'll get that because of your work with us, we offer this for you. It's a free membership, and that membership allows you to come and see these weekly shows. And then I think more importantly, it's interactive with all the other community members. It's like being involved in Facebook or something like that, but only for people who are literally involved in this. They're going through these processes themselves in their own homes. They have sensitivities. They've been exposed to mold. All the things that you're going through. And so we wanted a really safe environment for those to come into, where we're not going to have to worry about getting spammed and having people from all over the world just sending us, informational flyers and all that stuff. And we just wanted to be a place where those of us who are like-minded can have these discussions. And we created the space for you. And so please use it. Ask questions, post advice, whatever you want to do to be involved. We appreciate it. So, and if you have a friend that wants to be involved, I know that Regina, you had asked if any of your friends can join. Yes, they can. And so just shoot me an email and I will be happy to send out those invites. On that note, again, really appreciate having you on the show, Michelle. Thank you so much. And everybody else, we will see you again next week.
Awesome. Thanks, Andy.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Appreciate it. Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.